Alright, in this tutorial here I want to cover random number generators. Alright, so random number generators are extremely useful tools for any type of programming we're going to do where we need some probabilities. So some examples, games are great examples if you want to simulate a card game, a dice game, tossing of a coin, which you'll do in an assignment here. Or some other probabilities or simulations, computer simulations, statistical studies, all that. Great for random number generators are great for those applications. All right, so what I have here, I'll just show you a little snippet of code here. So I have just kind of the framework for I guess a typical HTML document. I'm going to go down here to body. I'm going to create a little script. Alright, and then I'll end my script down below this. And then let's put some code in here. Alright, and one of the things we've been kind of covering in both the Snyder text and in some of our exercises as well, some of our little tutorials, is the DOM model, the document model. So I'm going to use that for output. So I'll say document.write. If you're not familiar with with this notation, go back and review it out of Snyder text. It's covered, I believe, in chapter 19 and 20. So let me go document.write, and I'll just, to get things started here, just make sure that we have this working right. So I'll just say hello world, and remember we got to terminate any JavaScript code we have. All right, so I'll save it, and let me run that in my web browser, and there it is. Okay, it's really small, so we can make that bigger by throwing a little HTML in there. And so I'll use the H1 header, make it a little better. Say H1 hello world, close the tag. Okay, now you should be able to see that. All right, let's write a little code now. Let's use the random number generator, and we'll use the math object to do so. And what I'll do here is I'm going to use some concatenation. So let me spread this out over a couple lines. And because it's a JavaScript statement here, I can continue to use carriage returns in between there, make the example a little more obvious as you read through it here. And we'll use our concatenation operators, so it'll be H1 and concatenate, and then down here we'll close the tag with concatenation as well. And then here we'll write our random number generator. Okay, so we're not using a function. Ideally, a function would be a little more elegant way to write that. So let's just examine the behavior right now of the math object, and we'll use .random. All right, and then I'll go ahead and put a semicolon after that. Whoops, excuse me, I don't need a semicolon. Just a math random. I'll save it, and I hit F5, and I'm going to just continue to refresh here, because every time I refresh, it's going to give me a different random number. And if you look at the math.random function here, it's good to just observe some behavior, and you'll see it's just give me a random number, but it's between 0 and 1. Okay, so if we want to change that to maybe something between 1 and 10 or 0 and 10, we need to add a little more code here. So let's try and create a random number between, let's go between 0 and 10. So what I'm going to do, let me think it to outer boundaries here. So if I multiply this by 10, and my outer boundaries are going to be a 0 and of course a 10. So if I get a 1, it's going to round up to a 10. If I get a 0, it'll round up to a let me put a 10 in there. It'll round to 0. Okay, so I got a 0 and a 1 are my outer boundaries. So if I get a 0, it'll be a 0, and if I get a 1, it should be a 10. Make sense? Okay. Let me save that again, And let's refresh. Okay, so there's a 2. I appear to be getting everything that I want to get here. Okay, I got lots of numbers, but again, I got a decimal. So I'll show you one other little function here, or other method. One of the things I can do is I can use another math object or math method, and that's going to be the math floor. What math floor does is it truncates, and that means it drops everything to the right of the decimal place. All right, let's see how this works now. So I got math.floor, and inside of that, encapsulated in that, I'm going to take math.random, and then I'm going to go ahead and multiply it by 10. All right, so now let's think this through here a little bit. Am I ever going to get a 10 out of that? I will get a 0, because if I get anything 0, multiply it by 10, it's going to round down. But let's kind of, we'll just use some observation here to see what we get. So I should get here numbers between 0 and 10, I believe. Okay, let's see if we get a 10. Okay, now I'm starting to get random numbers. I'm seeing, I saw 9. I'm not seeing that 10 come up. It might just be the probability I haven't hit it yet, but I'm not getting a 10 there. Let's go back and re-examine this. Actually, if we want to go between 0 and 10, we actually have to multiply by 11, because we'll never actually get a 1. It'll be between 0 and 1, and then we're going to truncate it. So we'll multiply it by 11 now. Let's see if that resolves that dilemma. Keep up. Just saw a 10. Let's go through and let's find a 10 again. Was there 10? Alright, so that seems to be working. We're getting all the numbers there. But I'm getting some zeros too. If I wanted to take away the 0, what I could do is I could do a math floor here. I could add a 1. And instead of multiplying by 11, I could multiply by 10. So I get a 9, my maximum value is going to be a 10, right? Because I'm adding 1 to it. I'm going to put all this, because we're using a combination of, we're using a plus sign here for addition and concatenation, which can cause some problems. So what I'll do is I'll put all that inside of parentheses there, so that'll be a mathematical function, and then we'll take the results of that and combine it with some text to make it a text value. Alright, so now I should be able, I shouldn't get any zeros, and then I should get a random number generator that will take me from 1 to 10. Again, we'll use our powers of observation here, and I did a save. Let me do a refresh here, and let's see if I got to get a 10. There's a 10. I'm looking outer boundaries here. Am I ever going to get a 1? We'll hopefully get a 1 here at some point. There's our 1. Okay, so the math object, or the math object, excuse me, has several methods. We're just looking at the floor and random, and these are the two that you want to use for generating random numbers. There's also a math.round, but as you think through that a little bit, you're going to find that it's not going to distribute values as evenly as using the math.floor.